I'm Steve, and I'm going to talk to you today about mobile and cross-device. So 4 main focus areas today. The first one's going to be looking at a bit of high-level context around new consumer behaviors. Then I'm going to be talking about what's really happening and how we can approach measuring it, to give a bit of insight on how we can make more informed decisions around acquisition, conversion, and attribution and measurement. Sure, yeah, no problem. Thirdly, you can look at how we validate, how we measure cross-device with AdWords, estimated cross-device conversions, and finally, I'll be looking at a couple of case studies. So firstly, an inconvenient truth is the number of people, proportion of people who start all their journeys on smartphones today. And last time we measured it was around 65%, which is a profound shift in consumer behavior. And that's across all verticals, across all types of sequential tasks that people try to perform. So 65% start on mobile, which just gives you an idea, isn't it? It's on. Shall I stop? Excuse me a second.
It sounded like it was working.
Yeah, it's all right. Okay, is that slightly louder? Great. Okay. So 60% of decisions start on smartphones and somewhere else, which just gives you an idea of how critical it is in terms of your mobile acquisition and getting that right. And when they land on your products, how you convert them in terms of mobile and cross-device as well. So other types of ways that mobile users now convert. So we have the traditional desktop converting in device, tablet, smartphone, mobile sites, mobile apps converting in device. But we also have online to offline. So it could be via a store locator, it could be via click-to-call, or it could be via other types of consumer behavior, such as showrooming. All these new conversions or micro-conversions are very important to track and to measure and to attribute. And finally, cross-device. Give you an example of those insights. So in terms of click-to-call, 70% of people, mobile searchers have used click-to-call buttons. 87% mobile to store visits, people use them before visiting a store, which was how it informs those store visits. And finally, in terms of cross-device, 90% of people move between devices to complete any type of sequential task. So that's a bit of insight to new consumer trends and how we can capitalize on it. So what's really happening? And what I'm going to go through now is a narrative that my team have developed based on us seeing trends and behaviors in a marketplace and advertisers not really understanding what's going on. So we've built this narrative. It's going to be available to you as a report, which you can ask your industry managers for at the end. So you can get your own bespoke version of it. And this is the narrative. So in terms of performance, it used to be fairly easy to measure because people would use one device to search or to go to your site, and then they would convert on that same device. So in terms of measuring that, in terms of conversion rate, it was fairly simple. It was conversion of one device into sessions on one device. In a multi-device world, it's a bit more complicated because you have people using multiple devices across your sites and your apps, and they can convert on any one of those. So in terms of the conversion rate representing where they started and where they converted, it doesn't. It's simply conversion rate into the session on the last click device where they converted. It doesn't factor in the new consumer behaviors and how people move between devices before they convert. In terms of real traffic growth, it's primarily coming from mobile devices. And we see this across verticals, and we see this across countries. If we look at the left column last year against the right column this year, we see desktop either level or down. We see smartphone, quite large growth, and we see tablet either slightly up or plateaued. Mainly because most people who've bought who have a tablet are rebuying. There's not many new buyers of tablets. So the real traffic growth is coming from smartphones, not desktop. And that trend is only going to continue. More customers are converting at mobile as well. So traffic at mobile, conversions at mobile. And again, we see this across verticals and across countries. But as mobile conversion share increases, the conversion rate remains stable or falls. So what's happening is the volume of traffic that's going to mobile is actually making the mobile conversion rate look worse because it simply can't cope with the volume that's going there. So the sessions are increasing, but the conversions aren't increasing in line with that. However, if we look at desktop, the desktop conversion rate is going up significantly in some cases, which begs the question, unless you're doing something materially different to your desktop user experience, such as removing a step from the purchase funnel, it shouldn't be increasing significantly, but it seems to be. What's happening is we're seeing lots of traffic coming from mobile being pre-qualified to desktop. So when they get a desktop, they're already informed to make a decision. So we look at the ways we can measure that, how people are actually informed when they get a desktop to convert faster. So we look at the number of page views that users are using when they get a desktop, and that's going down. So they're viewing less pages because they're getting it already informed and they're ready to make a decision. We look at session duration, and that also usually comes down because, again, they're already informed, they can make a decision much faster. And we also look at new customers that are converting in the first session when they get to desktop. That increases as well. So all these signals that we're measuring are substantiating the case that mobile is both converting in-device for mobile. It's also pre-qualifying all great traffic to desktop, which makes the desktop conversion rate look fantastic. So basically, we're seeing the mobile conversion rate under-indexing and the desktop conversion rate over-indexing because it's benefiting from all the traffic that mobile is pre-qualifying and sending to them. So if we look at times of day that mobile is active, we see the green line is the percentage of total conversions, and we see across the timeline on the bottom, midnight to midnight, we see the majority of total conversions are happening between sort of midday, 12 o'clock, and 8 p.m. at night. But if you look at the percentage of mobile sessions, it happens throughout the 24-hour period. So up until lunchtime, and then after 8 o'clock at night, which gives you an idea that your acquisition in terms of mobile needs to be active outside of those areas where you're seeing peak conversion demand. Because mobile users are using them first thing in the morning, at night time, and so on. So your acquisition campaigns need to focus on those hours outside of peak conversion periods. So to recap that narrative, real traffic growth is coming from mobile. We're seeing more conversions happening on mobile. The desktop conversion rate is increasing. And that's because customers using mobile to research and discover and consider. They're ready and informed to make a decision when they get to desktop. That's the power of mobile. So how are we going to measure it? So we look at an in-device conversion rate, a traditional conversion rate, which is conversions in one device into traffic or sessions into one device. If we look at the three platforms, desktop, tablet, mobile, we'll see last year to this year, we'll see desktop is up 1 percentage point, tablet 0.5 percentage point, and mobile down 0.25 percentage point. And if we remember the narrative, mobile is getting so much more traffic now in terms of volume. It's making the mobile conversion rate look poor, which is why it's down 0.25%. It's pre-qualifying all that great traffic to desktop. So desktop looks fantastic. It's up 1 percentage point. That's not really what's happening, so it's fairly misleading. We have developed what we call a multi-device conversion rate, which we think better measures what's happening today in terms of people starting on one device and converting on another device, in terms of traffic moving between devices over a period of time. And it's a very simple change of formula. We look at conversions in one device, divided into sessions across all devices. So the differentiator, or the denominator, is now traffic. And you see how the numbers flip around. So desktop is suddenly down 0.5%, tablet's the same, and mobile is up 1 percentage point. So the figures have completely reversed in terms of what's happening. So what I would say is, continue to look at conversion rate in the traditional sense, in device. But in terms of reporting or educating the business, have an overlay or a sidebar that says, in terms of multi-device conversion rate, which factors in what's happening in traffic moving between devices, and mobile pre-qualifying traffic to desktop, have a look at that as well, and the figures will look very, very different. And that should inform your acquisition decisions. So once you look at the multi-device conversion rate and see what's really happening in terms of traffic and conversions, your focus should be on driving conversions across all devices. You basically should be driving desktop conversions, tablet conversions, and mobile conversions, because the focus is overall more volume of conversions that you want. So that's the kind of the green numbers. That's what you want going up year on year. So next steps. So measure CPAs across all devices. So what we tell people is that you can afford to increase your mobile CPA because it's driving not just mobile conversions, it's driving conversions with desktop and tablet as well. And that'll bring down the CPA in tablets and desktop. So your overall CPA will stay the same. So mobile goes up, pre-qualifies traffic to desktop, So the desktop CPA comes down. So you're driving more overall volume while keeping the overall CPA exactly the same. So it's changing the individual CPAs, overall CPA the same, drive more volume. That's the story. You can verify the cross-device percentages in AdWords. That's what I'll talk about next. In terms of your products, you need to facilitate better cross-device behaviors on them. So have features such as email the basket to yourself so you can continue the journey later on or on a different device. Wish lists, having a signing in feature if that's relevant for your business model, and things like that. So anything you can do to enable a user to continue their journey on a different device at a later point will help you drive more cross-device conversions. And try to improve your overall multi-device conversion rate, which is what we just talked about. As I said, talk to your industry managers. They can run this report for you. So you can have that narrative, you can have the charts, and you can have your multi-device conversion rate. After this event, it's very quick for them to do so. We take your data from GA. If you don't have GA or you don't give us access to it, we can send you a manual spreadsheet, which will take you 10 minutes to populate. It'll give you exactly the same report. It's very, very informative. Please use it. Right, validation with AdWords estimated cross-device conversions. So what is it? Can I see a show of hands? How many people are aware of estimated cross-device conversions in AdWords? Probably about 10% of you. I can't count you. 10% of you. So what it actually is it's an AdWords feature that it tracks your last ad click on search or display ads. And then if the user then converts on a different device later on, we then count that as a cross-device conversion. So they looked at an ad with search or display on a smartphone. If they converted on desktop or tablet later on, we classify that as a cross-device conversion, and you see that visible in your AdWords columns. So you can understand what the cross-device behaviors are, and you can see, for example, what percentage uplift there is from one device to another to inform your investment decisions. We discount things like double ad clicks. So if they click on a search ad on a smartphone, and then when they go to desktop later in the day, if they click on another ad, we don't classify that as cross-device. So we basically deduplicate all ad clicks. This is quite a conservative estimate. How does it actually work? Well, we track signed-in users of Google products. So anybody who converts on your sites or your products that is signed into a Google product, and that can be Android, Chrome, Search, YouTube. So our sample base is enormous. And for those users that convert on your products that aren't signed into a Google product, we make an estimate. And we then display that into AdWords columns if we're 95% certain that it's accurate, plus or minus 10%. We use the same robust methodology in science that all the big research houses use. It's fairly accurate. Why should you use it? Because it validates your cross-device behaviors. It validates your numbers that go from one device to another. And it helps you make more informed investment decisions. So you can afford to increase your mobile CPAs to drive mobile conversions and cross-device conversions. For example, if you know that 18% of your conversions are cross-device, from one smartphone to a different device, then it'll give you a value in AdWords, for example, $5.3 thousand for those cross-device conversions, and it'll tell you what your CPA decrease is as well. Right, case studies. So the first case study, unfortunately, it's confidential. We're currently doing external safe case studies. It'll probably be coming out in a couple of weeks, but I can give you the content of it in terms of the results. This is a large online retailer. Their goal was to drive revenue growth, but with a keen eye on return on investment. Their approach was they measured performance using GA, an internal attribution tool, and they used AdWords cross-device conversions, which I just talked about. And what they did is they optimized mobile bids on AdWords, removing all negative bids on mobile search. So this was essentially their test. They removed all negative bids on search, and on Sundays they increased it by plus 50%, because those days were relevant for their business. The results, so they established mobile as a growth driver for desktop conversions, which is the cross-device narrative I've just talked about. They validated the value of being present on branded and generics. They maintained the overall same CPA across devices, again, which I just talked about. And they saw a 40% uplift in revenue from mobile. They've continued that. Really compelling case. This is the second case study. This wasn't using AdWords. This was Universal Analytics. This is from a large French reseller. 1.6 billion turnover in 2013. They use universal analytics, a user ID feature, which maps a user across devices. And what they wanted to understand was the value of cross-device users, essentially. And what they found from this study was 39% of revenues generated by cross-device users. And those users only account for 15% of overall site visits. So the majority of the revenue is coming from a minority of users. And cross-device users are 3 times more likely to convert. So you can see on the chart here that the value of people who use single devices, and it's 2 times, a multiple 2.4 for people who use 2 devices in a conversion, and then a multiple 3.3 for users who use all 3 devices in making a conversion, for an average basket value of 7 times the average. They think mobile impacts more than a third of their converting paths, and they should reevaluate the contribution that mobile makes in those conversion paths. So on a last click basis, they would see 100 conversions from mobile. If they factored in a linear model, they would see 167 conversions attributed to mobile. A reevaluation of 60% essentially. And then some quotes from Head of Data Insights. I'll let you read yourselves while I ask for some questions. Any questions about the narrative I went through, or AdWords Crossdevice? Yes? No, it's not in DoubleClick yet. Yeah, is this reflected in DoubleClick? In DoubleClick search, not yet, no. No. Estimated cross-device conversions will be coming to DoubleClick this year. Earlier. Yeah, it's coming this year. Still at parity with performance. Yes, they are, yeah. And we're adding more third parties to it as well. Sorry? Is AdWords Estimate Cross-Device Conversions available in the AdWords reporting tool? Yes, they are. We're adding more third parties to it as well. There'll be a lot more functional improvements to estimated cross-device conversions this year in terms of automating bidding and things like that.